Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashah Kodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS who have taught us this word and teach us this word today. And I want to give a salutation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Yatazakbah with the GMS Nebraska camp. And in this lesson, I just want to go into recent news where you have... in the news, we're specifically going to go, from this headline from BBC.com, where it says Trump directs nuclear weapons testing to resume for the first time in over 30 years. Now, what this is serving as, this is an omen of America's fate. This is an omen of, Esau's kingdom's fate, starting with America. America spearheads Esau, who's the so-called white man's kingdom, because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. But America is the heart of Esau's rulership. And America will be destroyed by nuclear fire, at the peak of World War III, as is prophesied in the scriptures. And we're going to get into some scriptures that highlight that prophecy. But as we're reading here, that Trump is directing nuclear weapons testing, this is an omen of that very prophecy. We see that it's saying that it's resuming for the first time in over 30 years, because there was an era of so-called, I don't want to say peace, because there wasn't an era of peace, but at the end of the Cold War, these different countries around the world understood that if they were to resort to nuclear to nuclear combat, that there would be something called mutually assured destruction, to where the destruction from using their nuclear weapons against each other would be so strong that there would be nothing to fight for afterward. They would just destroy each other, because of the immense power of these weapons. So let's get into the article. We're going to get into some scriptures, and Lord willing, the lesson is edifying. It says, President Donald Trump has called on U.S. military leaders to resume testing nuclear weapons in order to keep pace with other countries such as Russia and China. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis, he wrote on social media. It says, the U.S. has more nuclear weapons than any other country, Trump said, with Russia second and China a distant third. It has not conducted nuclear testing since 1992. I want to read this last little part, and we'll speak on it. It says, it comes just days after Trump denounced Russia for testing a nuclear-powered missile. The Kremlin says his tests were not nuclear. So what you have Trump doing is that he's posturing. He perceived these missile tests that Russia did to be nuclear. Russia's saying that they're not nuclear. And so Trump is posturing back. He's trying to flex his guns, but the thing is, the reality of nuclear combat is very real. I can't remember which of these world leaders said this. I want to say it was the prime minister of the UK. It was some leader, but they said that the world is closer to World War III, and the world is closer to World War III than they've ever been before in history. And what comes with World War III is, missile combat. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5, which says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. So this was how war was fought in ancient times. It was, men with swords and shield, hand-to-hand combat, men on the field fighting against each other. But it says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. We are in an era where war has, the technology of war has advanced to unforeseen levels, to levels that's never been seen in history. And we're dealing with jets, we're dealing with tanks, we're dealing with, cruise missiles, drones, and ultimately ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that you can hit a button and that missile can be shot from your country and be shot all the way across the world to another country. This is the type of era of warfare that we're in, and this is what we're going to see in World War III. And the thing is, these countries understand the implications of going into World War III, which is why a lot of these leaders are so hesitant about it, or have been so hesitant about it. But what we're seeing, Let's go to Proverbs 21:1, which says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. The Lord is putting the mindset into the leaders of this earth to be in a warlike mindset, to throw caution to the wind, so to speak. We're seeing Russia encroaching on different NATO nations with drones. We're seeing Russia going full force against Ukraine. We see, how things are ramping up with Israel and Gaza, to where even though they keep saying that there's going to be a ceasefire, even though they keep saying that there's going to be peace, they keep on striking each other. And why is that? That's because as much as the leaders of this earth may want peace and may know what World War III is going to result in, the Lord is putting them in a mindset to where they can't help but continue to go forward and fight. The Lord is putting Russia in a mindset to where he can't help but not let go of that territory in Ukraine. He has to keep on going. And now he's starting to encroach on NATO airspace, which is to NATO and to America a declaration of war. The Lord is doing these things on purpose because it is in the Lord's will that World War III will come about, so that Esau's kingdom would be destroyed. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17, which says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Those Medes are speaking about the Russians, and the Lord is saying that he's going to put a mindset in the Russians that they're not going to be in a diplomatic mindset. They're not going to be in a mindset to where any peace talks are going to work out, or where they're going to be like, oh yeah, we'll take this deal, we'll take this trade offer, so that peace can be sustained. No, it says that they're not going to delight in that. But what? In verse 18, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And those bows are speaking about those missiles. It's going to get to a point to where, as it prophesies in Ezekiel chapter 38 with Gog and Magog, it is going to get to a point to where the Lord is going to push these nations to go to war. And ultimately, it's going to, at its peak, as we're reading here in verse 18, they're going to shoot missiles. And a missile, as the, I can't remember which apostle I heard say it first. I want to say the apostle Gabar, but I'm not sure who the quote comes from. But a missile has no one's name on it. When a missile is shot somewhere, we look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki as the example, because those are the only places where a nuclear bomb has been let off thus far in history. And we see that when a nuclear bomb is let off, anybody that's in that radius of that bomb, they're getting affected by it. This is destructive capability that's knocking out whole cities. And that was the nuclear power they had in World War II. We're at a whole different stage of what these nukes can do now. Let's go to this right here that I had searched up, which says, what is the difference between the nukes in World War II and today? It says the main difference is that World War II bombs were primitive fission-only atomic bombs, while today's nukes are much more powerful thermonuclear H-bomb weapons. So to put that into perspective, it says World War II bombs were about 15 to 20 kilotons, while modern thermonuclear weapons can be hundreds or thousands of times more powerful, measured in megatons. Let's go to this article real fast, because in this article, it says how many nukes that these different countries have in the world toward the end. And it says the exact number of warheads held by each country is kept secret in each case, but Russia is thought to have a total of about 5,459 warheads, while the U.S. has about 5,177. So to put that into perspective, we see the destruction that was brought on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it's saying that one of them bombs had the power of 15 to 20 megatons, I believe it said. And one bomb today can do hundreds to thousands of more destruction than the bombs in Hiroshima or Nagasaki can do. And they have thousands of them today. And so when the scriptures prophesy, let's go to Well, let's go down to read more in Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 19. It says, "And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah." Babylon is speaking about America, and it says that it's going to be like when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, which is by what? Fire. That Lot's wife got turned into a pillar of salt because of that fire, and it says it shall never be inhabited. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Why? Because this place is going to be turned into a desert. No one will ever set up in Babylon ever again. No one is ever going to build up America ever again. It's going to burn and be under a great destructive fire. And once that fire burns out, it's going to be like what you see at the end of the original Planet of the Apes, where it was just sand everywhere, just a desert everywhere. That's why it says, "But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there." It's going to be a desert, but these countries, these leaders of these countries, they understand the destructive power that these missiles have. And that's why when we read on in this article, let's go down to here where it says, "The announcement marks an apparent reversal of a long-standing U.S. policy. The last U.S. nuclear weapons test was in 1992. That was, around the end of the Cold War." It says, "Before former Republican President George H.W. Bush issued a moratorium as the Cold War ended." A moratorium is basically like a suspension of an activity. So he basically said, we ain't going to do no more, nuclear tests. Because at that time, these different, countries around the world, these leaders, they was like, we ain't going to use these weapons. We have them, but we don't need to make any more. We don't need to test them because these weapons hold great destructive capability. And if we use them on each other, we're going to destroy each other. And so that's why they agreed to not use them. But now the Lord, as it says in Proverbs 21:1, he's putting them in the spirit to where now they're getting more willing to use them. Now we're seeing them testing them again. They're getting back into that spirit of being riled up and being willing to hit that button. And the Lord is going to do something to where these countries at the peak of World War III, they hit that button. They throw all caution to the wind. They say fuck it and they just do it. Let's go to Isaiah 54:16. Because we have to understand that this is all a part of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai's will. It says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy." The Lord has created this technology. He put the spirit on Oppenheimer and the different scientists that were around, during World War II to create the atomic bomb. He had them do that so that his purpose could be fulfilled, so that America could be destroyed by this nuclear technology all these years later. The Lord did this. And as you had America boasting in their strength at the time when they dropped these bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, sitting as if they was, the number one power in the world. Well, before these countries had this capability, they were. But America was in a prideful mindset. And as the scriptures say, let's go to Psalm 7:15. It says, "He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate." So let's get that word pate real fast, see what that means. Okay, that's the Hebrew word Strong's 6936, which is quad or quad, and it means head, crown of head. So basically, the violence that Esau had, that America showed on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, them bombs that they dropped, this technology that he made, it's gonna turn back on him, because the scriptures say, let's go to Jeremiah 50:14, which says, "Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she had sinned against the Lord Yahweh." So again, those arrows, when it talks about bending the bow and shooting them arrows, that's speaking about these missiles. And today, America isn't the only one that has this nuclear capability. There's many countries that have this nuclear capability. We see the statistics that we just read in that article that now, it's rumored that Russia has even more missiles than America has. But it's not just Russia. China has missiles now. France has missiles. The UK has missiles. India, Pakistan, North Korea. And all these different countries that are in the world that have these missiles, the Lord is going to put the spirit on them to where they're going to hate Babylon the Great, and they're going to all turn towards Babylon and shoot their missiles. Let's go to Job chapter 20 and verse 23, which says, when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him. This is speaking about when Esau is at the peak of bringing about his new world order, fulfilling his plans that he has for the earth. It says when he is about to fill his belly, basically when he is at his sufficiency, when he is at his peak, the Lord is going to cast his fury upon him. And these missiles, they're not just missiles being shot by these different countries. This is the fury of the Most High at the end of the day. It says he shall flee from the iron weapon, which is what? Those missiles. It says, and the bow of steel shall strike him through, which is showing that this bow and arrow is not literal. It says the bow of steel. When we look at these missiles, that's what they're made out of. That iron, that steel, that metal. It says it is drawn and cometh out of the body, yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. And so when it talks about, that glittering sword coming out of the body, that's the missiles rising up out of the missiles silos. And let's go to let me see, 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and verse 15. It says, or let's go to verse 13. 2nd Ezra 16 and 13. It says, for strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world, which is calling back to that ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. These missiles can go all around the world. It says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. And just like there were plagues that were brought upon Egypt, those weren't just random happenings that just happened to be happening into Egypt. The Lord was sending those plagues upon Egypt to judge the Egyptians, to judge Pharaoh for his evil dealings with the nation of Israel. And the same thing is going to happen today. When we read in Jeremiah 50 and 14, it said that all these arrows were going to be shot upon Babylon the Great because Babylon sinned against the Lord. We look at all the evils that have been done against the nation of Israel in this country. We look at all the evils that Esau is doing in the earth. And as I said before, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Esau has this whole earth in his hand, but America is the heart of his rulership. So America is going to be wiped out. It says, the fire, back in 2nd Ezra 16 and 15, the fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. So when the missiles rise up out of the missile silos and they go toward their target, they're not going to turn back. You have your different missile defense systems that America has, but there's going to be too many missiles that shot over here for the missile defense systems to work. The Lord can make it to where the missile defense systems just don't work at all. So let's go to let's read some more of this article, and we'll grab one more precept, and that'll be the end of the lesson. Let's go back up. It says later on, Air Force One, after the two leaders meeting, Trump said the nuclear test sites would be determined later. It says, with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also. It says, no country except North Korea has conducted a nuclear test explosion in this century, according to the Arms Control Association, and even Pyongyang announced a moratorium in 2018. Trump's announcement did not make it clear whether he was referring to testing a nuclear explosion or simply a weapon system that would be capable of delivering a nuclear weapon. His post on Wednesday night acknowledged the tremendous destructive power of nuclear weapons, but said he had no choice but to update and renovate the U.S. arsenal during his first term in office. So He's recognizing the destructive power that these missiles hold. He's recognizing the implications of, using these missiles. Yet the Lord is putting him into a spirit to where he feels like he got to do it anyway. And once America starts posturing more with their missiles, these other countries, you can expect them to start doing it. Right here it says Russia announced over the weekend that it has successfully tested 2 new weapons capable of carrying nuclear warheads. And Russia is saying that they didn't carry out nuclear tests, but they were just testing the weapons that carry the nuclear warheads, which, whatever the case may be, these countries are, getting closer and closer to nuclear war. All these talks, all these threats and these things, it's an omen of things to come. The scriptures prophesied, and the Lord's words will not go out void. So let's go to Jeremiah 51:1. Let me see, or Jeremiah 51:11, which says, "Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord had raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes," which is Russia. Again, it says, "For his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple." So the scripture is saying, prepare these different weapons. Prepare these weapons, get ready to use them. Because at the end of this verse, it says, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. It is the Lord that is fulfilling his vengeance, that is fulfilling his indignation by having these weapons destroy America, for the sins that Esau has done, for the things that Esau has done against the nation of Israel. And so this is why the scripture say in Revelation chapter 18 verse 4 says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Because the scriptures prophesied there's going to be 1/3 an elect of the nation of Israel that will be saved from this coming destruction, but 2/3 of the nation of Israel, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they won't make it out of this place within this coming destruction. And this is why the scriptures say, "Give diligence to make thy calling and election sure." We don't want to take part in this destruction that is coming to this place. I posted a video on my page, today that shows basically an illustration of what the destruction of these weapons were like in Hiroshima, and it calls back to a precept where it talks about, Zechariah 14:12, where it says, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. This is going to be a very, painful destruction. You often have, different scientists and different people say that the destruction, if you were caught in a nuclear bomb, that it would be like, like the snap of a finger. You wouldn't feel it. It would be too fast. But this is the Lord's judgment that we're talking about. We don't want to be a part of that number that feel this coming fire, because the Lord is going to allow people to feel it. The Lord is going to allow, your senses to realize that burning. This ain't just going to be a thing to where you're going to be here. If you're just going to be able to sin against the Lord, you can carry yourself as a 2/3, and then the destruction is going to come, and you're going to blink your eyes and it's going to be over. No, the scriptures say you should reap what you sow. So for the wicked of our nation who are caught here, they're going to feel that destruction. They're going to feel that pain. And we don't want to be a part of that number. We want to be those who sought Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, who were covered from this destruction, who received salvation from it. Because the scriptures say in Revelation 18:4, going back to it, "Come up out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins." That's saying, that's literal. That's when the Lord returns with the angels in the chariots, which this world knows as UFOs, to save the elect in those chariots from the destruction that's going to rain down upon this place. But let's read in verse 5. It says, "For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities." So this is going to be the Lord's vengeance, and the Lord is going to cast his vengeance on many people, with this coming destruction, on the 2/3 of our nation, on Esau, on all the heathen that are going to be in this country at the time. But without digressing any further, just want to put out this lesson to show that the Lord is putting these leaders of the earth in a mindset to barrel towards World War III. And America is plummeting right toward prophecy, right toward destruction. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Once again, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baruch HaKodash. I'm going to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS, and a salutation unto the elect.